This is the lecture for How to Read Philosophy. There's no associated reading entitled How to Read Philosophy. It's just the video. So one of the things I want you to note is that philosophy comes in a lot of different forms. It comes not just in essays and books, but also plays and dialogues, movies, animes, video games, songs, visual mediums. So for instance, later in the semester, we're going to engage with a philosophical text about the anime and manga Berserk. So philosophers engage with all sorts of things philosophically. Sometimes the material is meant to be philosophical and sometimes it's not meant to be philosophical. So the question is, how do we engage in philosophy in a recognizable way? So how do we know we're engaging with something philosophically? In other words, what's the difference between a philosopher and somebody who's not a philosopher? It's just a number of questions that they ask, right? So when a philosopher is reading, they're asking a hell of a lot of questions. In fact, we're going to read about a guy named Socrates who asked so many questions, they killed him for it. Right? So it can be annoying, but it's how you understand the world and unpack these ideas a little bit more successfully, right? So that's part of the skills we're going to develop, is how to engage with the text philosophically. It's just going to be by asking the right sorts of questions to the text, like engaging with the text. And this takes practice. It's a skill. It's very frustrating to learn. I know this. I've done it. But it's worth learning. But here are some tips. The first one is that reading is an activity. You cannot do it passively. And I give the example of doom scrolling here, but this also includes like other things you might be tempted to do, like cook at the same time you read, or if you are the type of person that likes to put on like a show you've seen a million times in the background while you do work. This is going to be very, very annoying for you to do, because you're going to get to the end of the text. You're going to be like, I don't understand shit from this text, right? Well, it's because you weren't engaged actively with the act of reading, right? This task that you have to do. Sort of like when you're at practice, like maybe you're at basketball practice and you get hit by a wayward pass and your coach is like, go run laps. Like, why are they making me run laps? Well, it's because you're not paying attention to the task at hand, right? Same if you're learning an instrument. Your just mind's wandering while you're learning a song. You're not going to learn the song. Same thing with reading. It's just a task that you're going to have to attend to. The second one is that you're going to maybe want to try to block out some time to read. I'm not saying you need to like block out 6 hours, and I'm not saying you can't chunk your reading, but you're going to want to devote some time to this task. This can be frustrating and challenging, I know, if you have like family responsibilities or things you have to attend to outside of school. But I think the way to frame it to yourself is that it's treating yourself well to give yourself time to do this sort of stuff. So, and one of the reasons why this is so important is because, like, if you get distracted, you're reading, you get distracted, you come back, there's this moment of inertia where you get back into the task, accompanied by like having no idea where the hell you are. You're like Gandalf, where he's like, I know this place, but I don't recognize it, right? So try to avoid that sort of distraction as much as possible. And the third one is don't socially annotate. I know it's part of the course assignment, but don't socially annotate the first time that you read the text, right? Why? Because you're going to be distracted. You cannot multitask the way you think you can. You've been convinced of this, I'm sure, but nobody can multitask the way that we think we can. We want to be able to do it, but really you're just like not doing either task well. So do the social annotations later. Try to engage with the text with your full attention beforehand, right? So basically, the upshot here is all of this amounts to pay attention to the task of reading while you're reading. Just do it, right? That's all it amounts to. And don't try to convince yourself that you're special. Like, nobody is. You cannot multitask while you do this. So I'm going to say something crazy to you. Read 3 times. The first time I heard this, I was in grad school and I was like, I'm not going to read it once. So why would I read it 3 times? Well, in this course, you're going to want to read it because it's part of your grade. But generally, it's actually like very useful to understand difficult text. You're going to have to engage with them multiple times. It's like if you rewatch a movie you love and you learn something different about it. Same thing here, right? So the first reading is you're gonna scout. Like, this is just get a lay of the land. We're trying to figure out what the terrain is. We're going to do this by skimming as quickly as possible. Right? So when we go through, we're going to be looking at the first few sentences, the last few sentences. We're going to look at section headings, try to figure out what's going on in them. Do I need to look at the footnotes? Do I not need to look at the footnotes? At the end of this, right, you really should be able to say what the purpose, like superficially, superficially what's going on in this paper, what's going on in this text, just what's the purpose, superficially. Anytime you start feeling yourself getting like, oh, I'm getting slowed down, note it, move on. Right? You can come back later and clarify those issues. Maybe you can't and you do a social annotation, but the point is get through it. Right? And then the second one is the careful reading. We're reading for meaning now to understand what's actually going on in the text, right? So look for signposts. People tell you what they mean. They say first, second, thus, therefore, because of X, we get Y. Like people tell you what they mean. So just look for those things and try to understand it. At the end of this sort of reading, you should be able to summarize in your own words what the text is doing, what's going on in the text. And you might ask questions. So when you first look at it, you do the scouting reading, you might form like an opinion. Like, this is what I think is going on in the text. This is why I think these concepts are important. And I give you guiding questions at the beginning of each reading to kind of help you frame that. And then your second reading, that's when you might make those corrections. Like, oh, I was wrong. It's actually this. Or, well, I said this, but the author's saying this, so maybe I'll make this sort of adjustment. And that is actively reading. That's actively engaging, and it's actually really good for learning. So at the end of the second one, you should be able to summarize in your own words what's going on in the text, interpret it. So then this third reading, that's what you're really going to do for your close readings and reflections, is carefully reread the text for evaluation, right? This is, you have to be able to understand and explain what's going on in the text in order to evaluate it. Otherwise, all you're saying is, I don't understand, right? I don't know what's going on. So to say like, I disagree because of this, or I think this is a good explanation, but I think there's a limitation or something like that. In order to do that, you're going to have to read the text a third time. So this goes for any assignment that you do. If you're engaging with the text, you should read it a third time. And again, it's frustrating, it can be challenging, but it's worth doing. And I'll admit to you that like if I'm writing an essay about a paper or that involves like citing a paper, I've probably read that paper upwards of 10, 15 times, particularly the passages I'm interested in, right? So, but to do that requires doing these other things in the background, the scouting, the meaning, and then the evaluative reading. So that's the basic approach to reading philosophy. And it's an approach designed to make this as successful and as least frustrating for you as possible. So play around with it, see what works for you.